So yes, again, I just wanted to say I'm so grateful for your time. You're a very special person to a lot of people, but especially to me because I had been trying to contact you since my first year, and you're obviously very busy for many reasons. But we have some similarities in our background. I wanted to reach out to you to hear your advice and your story, and I would so appreciate, hearing from you and any direction you could give me for my future as a lawyer. But yes, it's such an honor to kind of be in your presence and to hear from you, and what you have to say. But yes, I was a rower at Penn in undergrad. I am at Penn Law now in my third year, and I worked in the Olympic movement before law school. I was an NBC Sports Olympics researcher, was in Tokyo working for the US Canoe Kayak team, covered US rowing as well, just rowing in general, actually. I've definitely had my share of Olympic time, but decided to go to law school to kind of make a more profound difference in this space eventually. So again, it is an honor to speak with you and to talk with you today.
Thank you. Well, I'm delighted we could get together, and I hope I can answer the questions you might have.
Yeah, of course. I guess to start off, I wanted to hear about your time as an athlete and how it has shaped you mentally to be a change maker. I was an athlete as well, and I think we learn a lot of different things like commitment and tenacity and persevering at times when things can be tough. But what about that experience kind of shaped you to be the profound leader you are, shaped you into the kind of lawyer that you've become?
To me, the greatest surprise of law school was that people were really more interested in making money than learning about law, and that really shocked me. I don't know why, but it did. I suppose that I foolishly and naively went to law school to learn the language of law, which is the language of power. And Unfortunately, I found out that namely power was about power, not about law as much as I had hoped. Um, so perseverance, well, throughout my life, I don't know why on earth I thought I could go to law school and train for the Olympic Games after having been demoted to JV my senior year at Connecticut. It's like, what? And I think I could make the Olympic team? Really? I don't think so. But the heck, why not give it a try? And I loved it. I loved the rowing part. Uh, so stay true to those things that give you some sense of joy or enjoyment. And one exam a semester per course really wasn't doing it for me in law school.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
is it
definitely, definitely
still is
the
that
same.
still the deal now? One exam per course, pretty
Yeah,
much.
most courses are like that. It's like your only grade in the course, except if it's a seminar.
Hmm.
But,
Well, in a seminar, it is the only grade per course, right?
sorry, say it again.
For a seminar, there's only one grade for
Yeah,
the
for
course.
of the doctrinal classes, it's one exam,
Uh,
but the seminar is you either write a paper or do a presentation or different things like that. But it's still that way where it's one grade and that's your grade.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I lucked out of that, not knowing that I had by spending my first semester, my third year at the Center for Law and Social Policy. I had no idea that meant I didn't have to write a third year paper because
Yeah.
I didn't know I had to write a third year paper. I don't know if that's still true or not. Is there still a third year paper requirement?
There's a writing requirement, but you can get
Uh,
it through, like you can get it through a class. So if you have to write a paper for a class, it counts as that requirement.
oh, that's cool.
Mhm.
I have no idea how I would have fulfilled it if I hadn't fulfilled it unknowingly by doing that other thing. So yeah, I managed to get through law school. But I think the main thing was being determined. My goal was to become an attorney. And it just happened that there's these 3 years that I'd be in law school intervened with one of my other goals, which was to become an Olympic champion. And so the timing was such that I had to do both at the same time. And, the only way to make it work any other way was to draw it out longer, which seemed not like the best idea. So I said, let's not do that. Let's
Yeah,
just keep going as long as we can. I don't
exactly.
know if any of my old professors is probably not. By now they would be gone, I guess,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
some older ones. My evidence professor right now has been teaching for like 30 years, but um, yeah, I'm not sure if he
All
was.
of that.
Say it again.
When did ooh, I'm class of '77. Ooh,
Oh.
that was a while ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he.
You have to do I'm not allowed to do math out loud in public. Mm-mm.
No, it never ends up well with me either. So,
Yeah, so, it's been a moment.
do you think that the challenges of training for the Olympics and being in law school made you a certain type of lawyer or approach problems when you were a lawyer differently than maybe your colleagues?
I think what made me different was leading up to it because I thought that, again, law was the language of power. And so the idea was that uh, once I learned that, I could help people better. Um, and that seemed not to be the goal of my colleagues. The goal of my colleagues was to help themselves better, which is okay, but that's not really why I went. Um, so I think the sports and working with a team for women in particular makes a huge difference because it's expected of men to do that.
Right.
And so it's no big deal when guys get to be on little league teams and teams where they mess up their brains, concussing themselves unnecessarily with football uniforms, looking oh so sweet in those uniforms, but doing damage to their brains unnecessarily. Is having the chance to work with other kids your own age makes a big difference in working together in teams and so forth. And that's how I think that's how our nation has been able to get along because we know how to work together well. So
Right.
sports to me is fundamental. My sports, till I got to college, were all music because there was no other way for me to commune with kids or people my age other than music because sports was not allowed for girls, only for boys. So sports and music were almost the same for me, which was good because
Right.
I didn't have sports, but I had music. Then I get to college and I have sports, a little bit of sports. Little did I know if I'd come the year before, I would have been so disappointed because there would not have been any intercollegiate sports, only intramural for women at
Wow.
the collegiate level. Now that was a shocker. I'm
Right.
glad that there was a professor who was willing to explain it all to me because I wouldn't have believed it. It's like, what? What do you mean you don't compete with other colleges? What's intercollegiate mean? Well, it means stuff other than for women.
Right.
But it changed the very year I arrived, so thank goodness for that.
Thank
But then
goodness.
we had to compete against, yeah, then we had to play basketball against Connecticut University, which is really not a good idea when you're
No,
from
never.
Connecticut College.
Right. It's so hard to believe there was a time women couldn't compete, play sports because
Yeah.
sports have been like so foundational to who I am. And although I wasn't quite, your speed of becoming an Olympic medalist, I've been, I think, so important to who I become as a person. And I think not only do I want to work, in sports law because of my background in sports, I think it makes me a certain type of person and allows me
Mhm.
to work with people. And I don't know, it just really contributes to my personality as I've grown. And I think it's so impressive that you were kind of the first wave of women to kind of pave the way for someone like me because I wouldn't have those opportunities. How do you feel? I'm just interested. This is off the beaten path a little bit, but how do you feel about um, how the NCAA is kind of tackling the new issues regarding women's sports that have come out recently. Like me as a recent athlete in college, obviously I have feelings towards it. And while wanting to be inclusive, you also want to defend the right for women to compete and compete fairly, and same with the Olympics. So,
Hmm.
how do you feel about what's happening within the NCAA, but also how it might affect the Olympic movement?
Well, are you speaking of transgender athletes? Is that the concern?
Yes.
Let's name it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, transgender athletes. That's it's good to be alive at a time when people can be all that they want to be. That doesn't mean they have the right to take part in every event that there is. And
Right.
there are events specifically for women athletes at the Olympic Games, which have taken a long time to get in place. It seems like it didn't, but it did take a long time. To me, okay, the Olympic movement's position, which I must have because I am a member of the IOC, is that each sport should make its own decision. And the one caveat to that is that I have worked to insist that any policy group within a sport that's making such a decision must include women Olympians because every sport in the program has women Olympians. So there should be no problem in finding women Olympians to serve on said committee. So that, because with all due respect to the gentleman, it's a whole lot different for a man to think about competing against a woman than it is for a woman to think about competing against a man. And I mean, the guy, again, it's wonderful that people can be what they want to be at this time, but you can't be something that then steps on what I can be,
Right.
which is the problem.
Right.
And our job as sports administrators is to make sure that sports is safe and fair. And how can you start with something that's not fair? The whole point of the drug program is to keep exogenous materials out so that you don't have some advantage over others because of
Right.
what you're putting into your body. What
Right.
could be more dramatic than changing the way you approach the world? More exogenous than that. To me, it seems we should stay with where we are and have the limits that we have and move forward. But
Right.
the position of the IOC is that each sport should make its own decision,
Right.
as long as there are women Olympians helping.
Right. No, I completely agree. And I just thought it would be interesting to ask because you were on the front lines of, breaking out women's sports and kind of paving the way for what we have today. So I'm sure that a lot of what is going on today affects you like personally on a personal level because you were kind of the first to do it and you've set up the system so that people like me could participate fairly. So I thank you for answering that. I know people have very, various opinions on it based on, their backgrounds and their feelings and their
Mhm,
but you have a very distinct and particular
mhm,
vision and role in it because of the amazing work that you've done and that you've been a part of. I'm really interested in your work at the IOC. I recently spoke with an attorney at the IOC because I my dream is to work there and be on
mm.
the legal council there. And once again, work with the Olympics like I did before law school. So I would love to hear any guidance you have about getting involved with the IOC, kind of becoming a change maker there, and what I can do now that I'm a 3L to kind of make that happen.
Mhm. I have to ask question language. Do you
Just
speak French or Spanish? No. All right, we'll work on that because that's everybody pretends at least that they speak English, and most people do, but it's better if you can also, when they're huddling over lunch or something, that you could join join the discussion too. So something to think about. Um, and then sports business is about to just go into a big old boom. It really is because there's so much money involved. and I don't know enough about the future. I don't know anything about the future. Certainly don't know enough to advise you as to which way it's going to go, but there is a, I mean, it's the next, in my opinion, the next big bubble. So as things are realigning and as uh, even the IOC, we're looking at how best to finance the future because maybe sponsorships are going to go a different way with all the stuff that can be done with social media and so forth. And we don't come home. I mean, the the thing that US TV pretends is that everybody comes home and has dinner and then sits around the TV and watches the Olympic Games. Well, that's very nice, and that did happen once upon a time, but that time is gone. And they're going to do a lot more than they did for the last couple of games to make sure that people can have the choices they expect to have while watching the games. So, how are we going to go about getting people involved with the games? Sports is at its base a volunteer effort. And if we don't keep volunteers interested in giving to sport, we won't have any sport because you can't pay for all the volunteers that get kids involved in sports and young people involved in sports. So that is a necessity. Um, so having useful things for people to do as volunteers is also important. Instead of standing around, it's raining. I was thinking today if we had had an event for kids who run for fun, it would have been miserable for the adults, but the kids would have loved slipping and sliding on the hills and such. But I just was thinking about that today. So, but the volunteers would have had a great time too. They're what did we call the volunteers? We had a great name for them. Anyway, can't remember right now. But again, fun is the major thing for kids to have fun, for adults to have fun, because that's what sports is about: having a story to tell, an experience to share, um, and those are things that communities share together. And people who come from a different community can be brought into a community through sport, which is wonderful. And as we both know, the noblest of sports is the sport that you can't, once you start rowing, you can't stop.
No,
You look at people's hands, oh, yeah, there's a rower.
yeah, it's it's a small knit community, and I actually was recruited to Penn initially. Initially, I played field hockey,
Ah,
um, and I like had a poor experience and joined the rowing team my junior year.
ah,
Um, so I rowed for 2 years only, but seeing the difference between like a ball sport. And um, that's like a very small team. It's about 21 athletes going to rowing, which is like an endurance sport, a large team. And I had a very good and passionate coach. Rowing is just a completely different sport with a different approach. But it's also a lifelong sport. I've met so many wonderful people and made so many great connections through the sport because I feel like it's a community that wants to kind of keep growing and helping others. Where
mhm,
um, I played field hockey almost my whole life, and there's not quite that same touch to it that I
mhm.
found with. Um, so I'm sure that you felt the same way, and that growing has had such an impact on you just because of the sport itself. And then you've been there on
Yeah.
the front beginning, so I'm sure you felt it, in an even bigger way than me.
Yeah, it's been important and taking me to places I didn't know existed even. But the most important thing is kind of the friendships that you develop, and as you say, the people that you've met. And
Right.
it's just, I'm sure people in other sports have similar, but not the quality of experiences that we have in
Right.
rowing. I'll put it
Right.
that way, because I'm always a bit, shall we say, eh, I support my sport. Put it that way.
Yeah, of course, of course. I wanted to talk more about the IOC that I mentioned before. Is there a way for me to kind of set myself up, once I've worked at my law firm for a few years to kind of, contribute to it, be a part of it? Kind of how can I break into that? right now, even I'm taking the bar
Hmm.
during the Paris Olympics, so unfortunately that won't work.
Yes.
But I just want to get involved and
So
be a
inconvenient that parts. Yeah. Yeah. So do you want to stay on the East Coast?
not necessarily. I'm from New Jersey, but willing to go to Switzerland, willing to go
Mm,
wherever.
okay. Well, the reason I was asking is I don't know what really will happen, but NBC, of course, is producing the games for the U.S. for 28. So
Yep.
they'll be building up. And 20 out here, I think, is where the NFL is now headquartered out in LA. I think their headquarters out here, or they're about to be out here. So there's a lot happening out this way. But then it'll all be over at about the same time. We have the World Cup, and then we have the Olympic Games, and then maybe the Olympic Winter Games in 34. So now's a good time to get involved. But how to do it? So offer. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sorry. Is the law firm that you're going to, do they have a practice in sports law?
Yeah, I'm going to Latham and Watkins in New York,
Oh,
and they yeah,
I
they have
know them well.
yeah, they have a sports entertainment and media group within the M&A group, so I'll be doing that.
Mm, okay. Well, that's a good place. Um, Way back in the eons of history, I don't know if they tell you this part, but they had a lot to do with the international copywriting of things. And that's how sports marketing began, because if you didn't have the mark, how could you control it? You
Right.
couldn't. So there we have it. Simple as that. Very simple. Okay, that's good. Well, that's excellent because they will keep their eyeballs on what's going on. I don't know who is there now doing that stuff, but that's a very good choice. Very good choice
Yep.
because they have exactly. Well, and what you need to do, I don't know what it's like working at law firms anymore. I don't know how long it takes to become a partner anymore. Is it 20
Long
years, 30 years, something like that? And they better pay you enough so that you can pay for that partner's fee when the time comes. That's what I don't understand, how you can do that. Anyway, um, yeah, Latham, and look into Latham's history. I don't know, I should know this, but I don't know if the leading guy there is still around. That's terrible. Um, from Latham, who really did a lot of work for the LA Olympic Organizing Committee, LA or LAOOC, or we came to call it the LAOC, or one OC, because we had to take the Olympic out. So anyhow, what was his name? Oh man, it was fun to listen to him talk. Some people were offended because he seemed to be too smart for everybody, but I knew, having gone to Penn Law School, what that was like. Too smart for everybody else in class. That's fine. Just good. Very. Uh, Anyway, so there's a long history and history with Latham and the Olympic Games, interestingly enough. So you should check into that. And then you got to be at the right place at the right time. And I think you're doing it nicely with Latham. I don't know about their New York offices. I know about their offices out here. Um, and I think you've done a good job scouting out. Now, the next thing you need to do is to find a sport that you really love and you're willing to put some time into, just in case the other approach, then through sports. Because that's, even though it looks like I came through the NOC, and I did, it was really through rowing by being a member of the board of Vesper Boat Club and being a member of the U.S. Rowing Board, and then getting elected to the USOC, now USOPC. To me,
So,
bored. But that's how it happened through sport. And sport needs volunteers. So if you can find a niche for yourself where you can be important to a sport or within sport, that can make a big difference also. So if there's something that's important to you, I feel like I'm looking up at the sky, important to you um, in sport, speak up and talk to athletes, find out from them. And in a sport that looks like you're listening to athletes, that's usually a very good thing.
mhm. Oh, that's great advice. It's sports are
Yeah,
open, new faces are needed. And I think rowing is a great space for that. I also have connections, obviously, to field hockey because I was really a field hockey player for most of my life. So, but
yeah.
I worked with a lot of different sports at NBC. So I think I have some good mentors within those sports. I've been an extern with US. I'm an extern with US Soccer at the moment,
Mhm.
but I last year I worked with USA Cycling and USA Gymnastics too. So I'm
Oh, you've
trying to
gotten around. Yeah.
we every semester you have to do if you want to do an externship at Penn now, you can't
Hmm.
repeat the one you've already done. So
Oh,
I had to move sports or find something new. I couldn't work at cycling for 2 semesters. That's why I kind
oh,
of jumped around, but I wanted to meet people and talk to people and kind of get involved in different sports to see what was needed, right? Like some want new faces, some don't. Some are kind of stuck in their ways and some aren't. So I think that's great advice to kind of pick one almost and get really involved. And that's kind
mm,
of how you go up and make yourself known kind of in the space.
mhm. Oh, that's good. Yeah, because we used to have these big multi-sports events, which cost too much, and there was no way to fund them, which was the other way to work your way in. But I think that you found the right way because now you know that sports are similar but different, but still similar because they are what? Volunteer based. So they have
Right,
to rely on volunteers,
right,
um, which is what makes it so different.
right. Have you found that what do you find about yourself that makes you effective like on these boards and panels and doing all the amazing things that you do? Do you find that like you got that from being an athlete or that came from being a lawyer?
Mm.
What kind of led you to be this amazing leader that you are and have all these qualities that people kind of want from you?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I think what I realized is that, and oh, that was someone at my door. Um, Actually, I wrote my senior thesis on this in college, and it's called the philosophical value in a diversity of ideas. And the point was, the more descriptions we get of truth, the closer we come to it. So the more opinions you have, the more likely you are to come to real truth. Seemed quite simple. But having used that approach, I listened to people and learned a lot. And if you listen to people and people know that you're listening, then they care that you're listening and they care more about you. So by listening to people, I learned a lot about what was going on and how to deal with it. And while I was at law school, I don't know, they may or may not still have this. I went to the police headquarters. It was called the Roundhouse. But looking from the above, there were really two handcuffs because there was this round thing connected to another round thing. It's like the roundhouse. It's a handcuffed house. But we interviewed defendants before they went up for bail. And that's how I survived during law school, doing that 3 to 5 nights a week, um, interviewing defendants. So learning to listen to people and
Mhm.
listening to the Africa's people and all the groups that came through there was very important to be able to listen and get information.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that and learning to sleep with my eyes open in law school class was a very important lesson as well, which I evidently did mighty well.
law school is a beast of its own. So
It is. And I would never suggest anybody to do what I did, but if you really want to, you can, but I wouldn't advise it.
yeah, I considered because I'm still at Penn, um, and I obviously knew my coaches and they're still here. I was considering, competing again during law school because I still have NCAA eligibility. But after my 1L year, I was like, absolutely not. So,
It's not
you know, it,
happening.
now that I'm older, I haven't trained that way in a long time. I'm still
Yeah.
athletic, still work out, every day, but not to the same extent that rowing,
Those
say,
stadiums.
right. And just, you're older, there's different demands in law school. You're worried about your professional career, but some people like you can be successful at both, obviously. And maybe if I tried, I could have been as well. But it's such an accomplishment that you did what you did because law school is a beast in itself.
Oh, yeah. And at the end of it, who really cares? Made it.
no,
Did
you
that.
no, you're such a
My
change.
parents care. My parents care.
Yes, my parents were very sad when I stopped playing sports. My
Mm,
mom was very, very involved. So, I felt like I let her down, but I was like, I'm at Penn Law. I think it'll make up for it.
yeah.
I
Good
actually,
switcher.
I meant to tell you before when we were talking about LA that a few days ago I connected with Elizabeth Freinberg on the LA 28 committee. I'm not sure if you know her or not.
Hmm, I think so. She's a
Yeah,
board member?
no, she is the um, deputy GC and senior vice president of LA 28.
Of the village?
Yeah, her name's Elizabeth.
Oh, I should know her then. Well, there are a couple of people working there now, and because of COVID, I wasn't introduced to everyone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and
There are too many people to be there all at once, so.
yeah, so I met with her a few days ago because I had a meeting with Garth Cowan at the IOC, who was the attorney I was talking about. And he kind of told me about like opportunities at the IOC and how to get involved. And then he connected me with her. So I heard a lot about LA 28 and how
Mm,
they were hiring some junior lawyers in 2026. So it would be great timing as far as like I'm starting in 2024 at Latham. And then obviously we'll have a little
oh,
bit chance to get involved in 26.
yeah, and Latham certainly understands the Olympic Games, so maybe you could get a leave of absence or something like that.
Yeah, that would definitely be great. I meant to say before as well that I don't believe that Latham does any more work with the IOC. I'm not sure if it's because the partner left that did the work, or but a lot of their work is not Olympic based anymore, which is a shame for me, obviously.
Yeah, well, they started it and got it going, so we're ready for the next step. So just figure out the next step for us, please.
Yeah, maybe I could bring it up to a partner and um, try to bring it back in some way. I'm not sure if a new associate has any type of power like that, but it would be great to get involved on like the law firm level because um, personally, I'm excited to go to Latham, but um, I'm not so much in the camp of the people you were talking about that you went to law school with that just want to make money. And like I want to get the skills so that I can do what I really have a passion for, which is work with the Olympics again. But I am using my time at the law firm to gain experience,
Mhm,
of different things so that I can really contribute um,
mhm.
when I get the opportunity. Because coming out of law school, as you know, we
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have the skills to be the biggest change maker.
Spend all that money on a fancy law school and know nothing.
Yeah. Like when I
Well, you
externed,
know that you can learn to learn, which is key.
yes, yes, like that you have the ability to learn and you have the skills to learn. You just haven't learned it yet.
I had no idea what to do about filing a case when I got out. It's like, okay, let
Right.
me find, oh, civil procedure. Okay, let's start here.
Right. And you memorizing the rule for the exam does nothing because you have to look it up anyway. So, yeah, it definitely doesn't set you up for success, but it gives you the tools, I guess, and the skills to do it.
Something like that. And the confidence too. That's the other thing that sports provides that I tell young girls and women, dealing with teammates and realizing that you don't have to be best friends in the world to have a common goal
Right.
and to pursue that goal is something that you can't really learn in other ways as directly as you can through sports.
Right.
So I really want girls to take part in sports, and I want them to have, the full panoply. I don't, the word I'm trying to say, which I'm messing up on. Panoply, what I mean. The whole world spread out before you, so that they can make choices. How could I have become a rower? It's not possible, but I did.
Right.
I had the opportunity at college and then at law school. Well, through college to go to the Vesper Boat Club right next to Penn.
Yep.
Are we
Yep.
nice to you guys still? Or were we? I can't remember.
Yeah, Vesper is right beside us, and I'm not sure if you saw, we actually rebuilt our boathouse.
I
So
knew it was underway, so it's finished.
yes, it's now.
Mm.
It's I think it was finished maybe this past summer
Oh,
into the much more beautiful and bigger than when I was there. I was in
oh,
the
I'm
old boathouse,
sure.
so definitely a different experience than some of these new athletes are having.
No, no doubt. They have no idea, which is fine. They don't need to, but we should keep the old tales alive just so
Yes.
that they know and they
Yeah.
can sit around and think, they used to tell us about this time when they didn't let women down here. Can you imagine that?
Right. It's even hard for me to believe. Like I said, it's been such a change, and I think the Olympics are such a great way to see it. Like it's I don't know, the biggest event in the world, and every Olympic Games kind of has its own struggles and own story. So that's something that I love about the Olympics. And um, you know, both of your years, especially 1980, were obviously like such profound moments in our history that it's amazing to get to talk to people like you that really experienced it and had trained and struggled and persevered, and you know things out of your control got in the way. But I guess for my last question, I
Mhm.
played field hockey in college to start out. I had a horrible experience, horrible coach. The girls in the team, like you said, weren't there was no common goal. The the vibe of the team was terrible. And then I switched to rowing, and it was a completely different environment to be in. But I went from training in field hockey, getting recruited. I was the top of my game, and then I had never rowed before when I was a junior and picked up the sport. So it was very humbling for me
Mhm.
because I no longer went from wanting to get the playing time to just simply learning a sport and making friends and knowing what it felt like to be supported by other women. Um,
Mhm.
so I guess I would just love to hear in your experience because you did it at such a high level while being in law school, et cetera. So were there any times in your career where maybe you experienced the same thing, and kind of how did you get through it? Because I still experience, or I still think about those experiences today, and they affect me mentally, physically, and kind of have had a lot to do with how I've grown and how I approach even problems in law school and problems outside of law school. So I would just love to hear how you've kind of overcome hardship in your journey, and what it means kind of for you now.
Ah, well, a hardship. There were so many. I think of when I came back from my semester uh, in Washington D.C. There was this huge snowstorm back in Philly, so I moved back, and I thought, okay, I'll just go for a walk because I really didn't know anybody in town because I've been gone for a semester, blah blah blah. And I came back from the walk, and I thought, wow, it's snowing on one eyeball. I wonder why that is. And I'd lost one of the lenses out of my glasses. And I went back to my house, and which was the apartment I had rented. And on the first floor, I had a TV that didn't work. So I went home, turned on the TV that didn't work, and just sat there and thought, how am I going to deal with this? I don't even have glasses that work. I've got one lens instead of two, and it's pretty miserable. And it's cold and it's snowing, and I've got to get through this. I said, well, one foot after the next is how I'm going to have to get through it. So there I was with just one semester left in law school, didn't know what I was going to do afterwards. But I knew I had to do something, and I had to get reconnected with the Penn undergraduates and my buddies there. So it was a matter of, okay, you're this far, are you going to finish it? And it's really the way you race. You're this far, are you going to finish it? um, as you know from rowing, as your lungs are burning and your thighs are burning, and you're wondering why on earth you did this to yourself yet again, knowing how painful it would be, but you know the pain will be over too. So
Right.
that's the way I went about it. I knew it would be painful, but I knew I wanted to get to the other end.
Right. That's great advice. The last 500.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's how I get through a lot of things in my life too right now.
yeah, and see, you've got that resolve,
Mm.
that reservoir of events you can reach out to. I still think one last rowing story. We had a coxswain who was said of her. It was said that that an educated snake would not be able to follow her because she was straight. But she coxed one of the best races I've ever been in. I've been in a lot of races. And Yale had just passed us by. And it's like, we can beat them. But they just gonna walk through us. And so people get a little antsy. And our coxswain said, no, we're not going to sprint now. We're not going to sprint till I tell you. And so she was building this up. We're going to sprint now. And we just shot right past them because she built it up. And it was like, whoa, who was that who just blew past us? Like she could cock, she knew how to manage the power in the bow. So for that, even though an educated snake could not have followed her, she could do the race.
Right.
So even a coxswain can come through.
Right. Yeah, they're often the most important people on the boat. So,
Yeah,
yeah, no, rowing is such a crazy sport because you like somehow keep coming back for more, even though there's so many like letdowns along the way, and like there's pain, there's burning, there's injuries. Like it's so different than any sport I've been a part of in my life. But like I think it also gets me through hardship and gets me to the
mm,
start line and gets me to the finish line. I'm about to graduate from law school, and I kind of have this like go 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 mentality, because not only because I'm surrounded by these crazy Penn students, but
mm.
also because like I know what's coming might be painful, but there's another side to it. There's the finish line. There's a
There you
medal.
go.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's obviously I'm not an Olympian or anything quite like that, but there's so much that we can learn from rowing, even or just sport in general. So I'm kind of excited to get into the space, and thank you so much again for your time. It's been such an honor to speak with you. I've been very excited for this for a long time.
Well, I'm happy to speak with you again. Sorry, oh, I broke my hand. Um, um, but yeah, if I can be of help, just let me know, and we'll do it again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Take care.
Bye bye.